Do you know how amazing you are? You are you. You are unique. Who you are is already enough. Life is simpler than you think. You can relax. It's good to be me, too. The stories you tell yourself are not true. Stories really capture our imagination, don't they? Whether they're books or TV series or movies, we get so caught up in them, we get really involved in them. They can seem so real. And what if our whole lives are made up of stories? It's just that in many cases we've forgotten that this is the case, and so they seem totally real. We're in them. It's like there's no other way of seeing the situation. But I want to invite you to start to look for some of the stories in your life. So what do I mean by a story? Well, it seems to us, each and every one of us, that what we're seeing in the world is objective reality, how the world actually is. But that's not the case. We're seeing the world through the filter of our own thoughts, beliefs, or stories about it. For example, if a dog runs up to you on the path, you could react in many different ways. If the story you believe is that dogs are fun and friendly and lovable, you might put out your hand and pet it. If your story is that dogs are scary and bite, you might turn or run away or hide behind your friends. If your story is that dogs are dirty, you might put your hands in the air and try to nudge it away with your leg, or call to the owner to keep it away from you. Of course, all these stories about dogs are true to some extent. They can be fun, friendly and lovable, or scary and dangerous. Some certainly are prone to bite, and they can get pretty grubby. But which of these is uppermost in your mind will dictate your behaviour, which will then lead to a different kind of experience. For example, if you always run away from dogs, you'll never have the chance to meet the fun, friendly ones. Your story about dogs is what makes the difference to your experience. We have stories about all sorts of things. We have lots of stories about ourselves, for example. What I can do, what I can't do, what I find embarrassing, whether I'm shy or outgoing, whether I'm academic or not at all clever, whether I'm sporty or clumsy or musical or likeable or ugly. The list goes on. We have stories about what other people think of us, stories about what we're capable of and what we're definitely not, stories about other people's expectations, and stories about why certain things are good and bad, right or wrong. Some of our stories are unique to us, and others are believed by most people around us. Why is this useful to know? It's useful because if something is a story, and most things are, then it's not actually intrinsically, factually true, and so it's open to change. It might look really, really true to us right now, but it isn't. When you start to see things as a story rather than a fixed and unchangeable fact, you have the chance for that story to change. For example, if it's not actually true that you're shy, however much you dislike speaking in front of a group or being the centre of attention right now, at some point it might occur to you to do or say something you've never done or said before. But if you 100% believe the story that you are shy, then that possibility is less likely ever to happen, and you're stuck in your shy person role. If it's not actually true that you're clumsy, then you might try out for a sport or activity that you've never tried before, which could be one that really suits you. Whereas if you think you just are clumsy in every situation, you'll give up and never try anything new like that. Here are a couple more examples of stories that look really true, but actually just end up getting in the way of us trying stuff, exploring the world, and having the full and fun life that's possible for us. Firstly, if I get that wrong or make a mistake, I'll look really stupid. And here's another common one. The feeling of looking stupid is so bad, I can't risk it. I remember thinking this as a teenager, thinking that I could handle almost any amount of physical pain, rather than the agony of being embarrassed. But the fact is, it's not actually true that you'll look stupid if you make a mistake anyway. You might, or you might not. Neither is it true that you couldn't handle that feeling, the feeling you get when you do think you look stupid. It just really looks as if you couldn't handle it. Think of all the stuff you avoid as a result of these stories. When you start to realize these are just stories, then you might have a go at doing something you're not sure will work, and you might learn something amazing and new along the way. So here's the biggest untrue story of all that encompasses both of those. I can't handle how I'd feel if that, whatever that is for you, happened, so I've got to avoid it at all costs. Let me say that again. I can't handle how I'd feel if this thing happened, so I've got to avoid it at all costs. Whatever that thing is, that's a story too. You can handle your feelings, any and all of them. And as you do so, then they move on and something else comes along. But that's a subject for another time. I wonder what you think about this idea of stories. Well, why not test it out and have a look at how that might work in your own life? What are some of the stories you tell yourself that actually make life harder for you? You don't have to do anything about them. When you start to notice that they just might be stories, I wouldn't be surprised if they just stop having quite so much power over what you do. Maybe you'll feel freer to make some fresh, new choices. This was It's Good to Be Me with Lizzie Paish. You can hear more on your favourite podcast app or visit lizziepaish.com. If you've enjoyed this, please leave me a review and subscribe to make sure you can catch all the future episodes and that other people find this podcast too.